I want to talk about what happened in Week 8, and I want to preview OU versus Kansas State. All that's coming up after the bumper.
Don't be cornering me. Hold up. Time. You gotta help me with that corner shit.
What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on the step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. Lane Kiffin was fined $5,000 for this tweet. Nearly 24 hours removed from the Owls' 36-31 loss to Marshall on Friday at FAU Stadium, Kiffin used Twitter on Saturday evening to express his thoughts on the officiating. His tweet came after officials had several controversial calls and non-calls in the Owls' loss to Marshall. One of the most notable non-calls that made Kiffin intestinally distraught came toward the end of the first quarter. Kiffin later claimed in the Sun-Sentinel one of his players was punched and it was missed by officials as one of his players was penalized for unsportsmanlike conduct on the same play. This tweet, though, should come as no surprise to we hardened Kiffin enthusiasts. Kiffin has been fired on a tarmac. He's been chewed out by Nick Saban while coaching an offense to a national title and endured being raised by Monty. He might as well have been knocked out in the third round by God himself, which is to say, he don't care. And speaking of heads rolling, he's unafraid of any fine you're leveling Conference USA commish Julie McLeod of the Clan McLeod. You might as well be trying to fight him on holy ground. I like that joke. That joke was good. Alabama Crimson Tide quarterback and Heisman hopeful Tua Tagovailoa underwent a tightrope procedure on Sunday after he suffered a high ankle sprain against Tennessee. Now, Alabama won, but that's beside the point. Tua will be out for 2 weeks. The news here is Tua has weaker ankles than Craig Elo. He's having tiny dancer surgery. Alabama's hope for a national title is now a walking Walinda metaphor. Turns out, ankles are the one thing this quarterback does not have Tua of. Man, that sounded like I should be on the 10 o'clock news. Oklahoma rolled West Virginia 52-14. The Jalen Hurts show yielded 16 of 17 passing for 316 yards with 3 tutties. Hurts rushed for 75 yards and 2 more tutties. Hurts recorded a career-high passing efficiency rating of 308.5, which is the best nationally this season in a single game. And all of that came in just 3 quarters. While Jalen Hurts is a monster, OU has scored at least 34 points in 17 consecutive games. Oklahoma has begun the season 7-0 for the first time since 2004, and that's good enough for 0-3 in the college football playoff all time. Cue the Sooner Schooner crashing. Ohio State rolled up the J-School nerds at Northwestern like a folded deep dish pizza. I watched the Buckeyes whip Pat Fitzgerald's boys 52-3, and I watched them let up. The Bucknuts are gross on defense and just making a mess of opposing offenses, which is appropriate because Ohio State should come with a caution wet floor sign because the Buckeyes are mopping the floor with their opponents. Be here all night. Wisconsin, what the hell are you doing? I'm honestly asking, how do you lose to a team that ain't beat nobody but Akron and UConn all season? Leaving aside, those teams are a combined 1-13. Akron is the winless one of this, going 0-7. How do you lose to Illinois when Brandon Peters completes just 9 of 21 for 174 with a couple tutties and was sacked 4 times? Also, Brandon Peters was able to beat Wisconsin. Jim Harbaugh was not. Let's not leave that out. Badgers, tell me how you lose to a team you held to 2 of 10 on third down and yielded a full football field less in total yardage than you did. How do you lose when the other Cohen brother completes 75% of his passes for 264 yards with a pick and a TD? I would really, really love to know if you have shame, or should I say, have you no shame, whiskey? We'll find out next week. Don't lose to Ohio State and prove you're worthy. Or do. Either way, you're not making the playoff because this is what you've done. Illinois' 24-23 win over number 6 Wisconsin was the Illini's first over a top 10 ranked team since beating number 1 Ohio State 28-21 in 2007. I graduated high school in 2006. And my favorite note, the 29.5-point spread made this the biggest upset in Big Ten history in the last 40 years. Lots of money line parlays were torn to bits thanks to your efforts, Badgers. If you ain't played nobody and you get beat by a nobody, that makes you nobody. Purdue quarterback Jack Plummer threw 50 passes against the Hawkeyes. None of them were to Rondale Moore, so you know how this went. Iowa and Nate Stanley took the coal out of the Boilermakers and picked up a 26-20 win. Ron hates that joke. LSU QB Joe Burrow was disgusting against Mississippi State. He hit 25 of 32 for 327 with 4 tutties in a 36-13 win, bringing the Bulldogs to heel. I'm here all day. And moonied all of us in the process. You's a real fine player, Joe. Want you back that? Yeah, you don't act like you don't know the words. You were singing Juvenile at your wedding. Don't trip. I know that you were. Vandy whipped number 22 Missouri, and I have no jokes. We all only have Derek Mason here.
Coach, you've answered questions about your job security all week long, and this team comes out and upsets a ranked Missouri team. What are you feeling right now?
Well, first of all, honor the God. It's been a rough patch, man, but I told my team this, and I want everybody to understand this, okay? A lot of people want this job, so they think, but I'm the man that's built for this job. Every day, man, we grind. We grind. Don't question us. Don't question who we are, what we do, or how we play. We're Vanderbilt men. Commodores anchoring down.
Loud talk from a man who was coaching a team who was 1-5 and lost to UNLV at home last week. I lied. I did have jokes. I gotta warn you, this next bit of content is graphic. Viewer discretion is advised. After a 42-7 loss to Minnesota, Rutgers has scored just 14 points in Big Ten play, which is the worst by a Big Ten member since 1943. The Gophers picked off Rutgers QB Johnny Langan 3 times. They sacked him twice and only allowed him to complete 9 of 19 passes for 48 yards. Good God, Minnesota. The man has to go home for Thanksgiving this year, and you're not going to make it easy, are you? Travis Etienne rushed for 192 friggin' yards, which is 39 fewer than the 233 Trevor Lawrence threw for in a 45-10 win for Clemson over Louisville. Didn't matter that Lawrence threw 2 interceptions because Brent Venables' defense was nastier than a woman giving out toothbrushes and floss on Halloween. I know where you live, Mrs. McGillicuddy. I still do. Venables' men allowed just 107 yards passing and recorded 6 sacks. Clemson held Louisville to 263 total yards and has now held opponents to below 300 yards total offense in 7 straight games for the first time since an 8-game stretch in 1956. Mrs. McGillicuddy was born August 9th, 1956. Yeah, I probably got your social stashed over there too. The first score between number 10 Georgia and Kentucky came with 6:37 left in the third quarter. Until that score, this game had 13 punts, 0 turnovers, and 0 passing yards because it was being played during the filming of Geostorm. Gerard Butler was sadly unavailable to play quarterback for Kentucky because he was impugning the dignity of science with this trash flick. Number 18 Baylor got a 45-27 win against Oklahoma State in Stillwater, and that's a big deal in Waco. It's actually a bigger deal than the invention of Big Red Soda. Shane Buechele passed for 457 yards and 6 touchdowns in a 45-21 mollywhopping of the same Temple team that dispatched Maryland and Memphis earlier this season. SMU is playing football like the NCAA has launched a formal investigation into their program. I'm not sorry for that joke. You know what it was. There's only been one team to get the death penalty, and it was you. By the way, SMU put up 655 yards and 45 points on Temple. Baylor put up 536 yards and 45 on Oklahoma State. SMU is 7-0. Baylor, 7-0. Clearly, Texas Christian needs to bring prayer back to its schools. Number 21 Cincy didn't really need the offense in the 24-13 win against Tulsa. TU got Zach Smith sacked 5 times, committed 5 turnovers and 12 penalties for 94 yards. The Golden Hurricane is playing like a person yelling Yahtzee at a blackjack table. My alma mater. Doesn't know if it's coming or going, I'm telling you. I watched South Carolina pick up a 2x4 called Tavian Feaster and nearly succeed in beating Florida to death with it. Now, yes, Feaster rushed for 174 yards and 25 carries, but the Gators came with the late victory, 38-27 in Columbia. I still don't trust Florida. I don't think anybody should trust Florida to this point. Appalachian State whipped Louisiana Monroe 52-7 with 572 yards of offense and held the Warhawks to just 2 of 13 on third down and nada for quarters 2, 3, and 4. That's Mr. 6-0 Appy State to you. The Mountaineers have a sincere shot at UCFing up this thing called the college football playoff, and I am here for it. I'm a group of 5 team at heart myself. Oregon got a late stop against Washington for a 35-31 win for their first victory against a ranked opponent this year. The game was surprisingly balanced. Both future fourth-round draft picks, Justin Herbert and Jacob Eason, passed for 280 and 289 yards respectively. Neither team committed a turnover. Both finished within 20 yards of each other in total offense. Yet, I still don't know or think a duck beats a husky in a fair fight. Better get Pete on that. The joke actually has some bite when you realize just how much this game changes if the NCAA leaves a really cool trick play in everybody's playbook. I watched Oklahoma run the same play against Texas and get it called back. What had happened was Chico McClatcher, which is a fantastic name, laid down in the end zone after the kickoff to conceal his whereabouts, like Elmer Fudd hunting wabbits. The return worked as an explosive play and then was called back for being illegal. Now, a rules interpretation from last year said that if a player was caught laying down, that officials should treat it like an injury. But the way Pac-12 officials called it felt more like an ump calling BS on a hidden ball trick, which is just one more way for refs and the NCAA to mess up an act of fair play. An act of fair play. NCAA. Act of fair play. Come on, people. Jim Harbaugh had gone 43-15 in 5+ years as the Wolverines head coach, but he was 1-9 against top 10 teams and 1-6 in games against ranked opponents on the road heading into State College. After a 28-21 loss in Happy Valley, he's 1-10 and 1-7. And hear me, oh Lord, should be the only words coming out of Notre Dame fans' mouths right now, because you really needed Notre Dame to be good. Or Michigan. Or Notre Dame. Texas beat Kansas, kinda. They gave up 500 yards of offense and needed a walk-off 33-yarder from Cam Dicker, the kicker, to win 50-48 at DKR during a night when the Longhorns were honoring the 1969 national champs by wearing throwbacks. Kansas is back. And while we're here, this game on the most homer network in sports television proved to me KU quarterback Carter Stanley is a better quarterback than Sam Ehlinger, Justin Herbert, Sean Clifford, Shane Buechele, Kyle Trask, and Bo Nix. Fight me. BYU at QB, Baylor Romney, made sure we never have to talk about Boise State in a meaningful way again this season, just like Mitt Romney's presidential campaign. All right, that is it for me. Let us talk about OU versus Kansas State after this. Okay, the good news is Kansas is actually pretty stout defensively. The bad news is they suck offensively. Now, Oklahoma is rightfully a 21-point favorite on the road for this game. And if you look at some of the statistics, you'll understand why. Because, check it. I'm going to drop some of this on you. They got their first win at Kansas State in over a month versus TCU over the weekend, which is also the first Big 12 win of the Chris Kleiman era at Kansas State. Now, it was nasty, and both quarterbacks played poorly, but there was this great Max Duggan highlight of him running through the middle of the Kansas State defense, free and clear and stiff-arming and slapping. I'm going, y'all going to take that from a true freshman quarterback? Apparently they will, because Scottie Hazleton maybe you get a little soft, maybe not. I thought you were going to be pretty good. This game still scared the hell out of me on the schedule to open, and now that I know that y'all ain't got an offense to speak of, which I'm going to get to, it scares me not at all. So that game was tied, K-State and TCU at 17. when Skylar Thompson had a 61-yard run during an 11-play, 95-yard drive that was capped with a 3-yard touchdown run, 2:45 left to play. And you can understand how one of the best third down defenses in the country was able to hold down to the win 24-17. TCU ain't good offensively. Kansas State ain't good offensively. Both are actually pretty doggone legit defensively. And again, that's where the edge is going to be for both those schools. K-State picked up just 266 yards of offense against TCU. For perspective there, Jalen Hurts had 316 yards of offense by himself against West Virginia. He also had 366 yards of offense by himself against Texas, and on and on. You're sensing a theme here, okay? Kansas State is not very good. Not very good offensively at all. Chris Kleiman's got some work to do. Kansas State is over 500 through 6 games into the season for the first time since 2014 when they started the year 8-2. So it's not as if they're not better than they have been. They're just not good. I mean, they're 4-2 with losses to Big 12 opponents, which is what you would kind of expect. I picked Kansas State to win 7 games and still think that they might. They're going to surprise people. Skylar Thompson has never passed for over 250 yards. And Kansas State hasn't had a 100-yard rusher against a Power 5 opponent this year. And not a single wideout has recorded a 100-yard receiving effort. You see what I'm getting at here? Skylar Thompson has never thrown for over 250. Over 250. Not 300, over 250. So if you make this squad throw the football, they're in a bad way. And it ain't like they're going to run it really, really well. James Gilbert is their best tailback. And that dude has 87 rushes, 453 yards, 4 tutties. Now, they spread the ball around, but for perspective here, Jalen Hurts has 84 rushes for 705 yards with 10 tutties. Like, what are we even talking about with Kansas State's offense? Are we sure that it doesn't have training wheels on it? Are we sure that it's a fully developed offense? Because it kind of feels like a one-legged man in that one contest right now. Now, Skylar Thompson, again, has passed for 994 yards this year. Jalen Hurts passed for 880 in the first 3 games of the season. You see where I'm going with this? They ain't good, man. OU puts up 613 yards per game. Kansas State puts up 369. And you were like, cool, but Kansas State can hold teams down defensively, right? Yeah. They're holding teams to 18.7 points per game. Problem is, Oklahoma's holding teams to 19.4 points per game. And that's really the story here. Oklahoma's defense is every bit as good as Kansas State's defense, which is not something that we've been able to say in the past few years. And that's, more to Alex Grinch on that. Kansas State ranks with number 2 in third down defense. OU is number 7. My goodness. OU ranks number 23 in yards per play. Kansas State ranks 75. I tried to find some more interesting notes to talk about when we're talking about this game and what it might mean for both Kansas State and Oklahoma. But, this about sums it up, man. Oklahoma's going to have their way offensively because they are an offensive dynamo. And more than anything else, I think this is a turnover game for Oklahoma because they have lacked in that. They've been great getting teams not off the field, but stopping them on third down. As you saw against West Virginia, had 2 fourth down conversions in that game, even as they held West Virginia to 5 of 18 in third downs. But turnovers, that's been Grinch's whole thing, right? He wants 24 takeaways by the defense. Going to take a lot of takeaways here in the last 5 games of the season to get to 24. I think they're sitting on like 6 right now, which is ridiculous when talking about how much he preached getting the ball out. But they are getting people on the ground. Kenneth Murray Jr. has been an absolute awesome will linebacker in this defense. Neville Gallimore's playing lights out. You get an outstanding play from the safeties coming downhill to make tackles, particularly Delaren Turner-Yell. Parnell Motley and Trey Brown have been remarkable. Biggest turnaround for a defense since the invention of the spinning top. I like Alex Grinch. I like where this defense is headed. I like that the ceiling is nowhere in sight, and they're still one of the best teams in the country when it comes to yards per play. And that's how I look at it, right? Because they're not going to get a whole lot, or they are going to get a whole lot of snaps because the offense is so good. Against West Virginia, Oklahoma had 59 offensive plays, right? They scored 52 points on 60 plays. You see where we're going with this. You could continue to argue that Oklahoma is not a top 4 program if you want to, but seeing as Ohio State still has to play Wisconsin, and we know that LSU and Alabama, one of those teams has to lose, they will be soon enough. All they got to do is continue to win. Now they have a ranked Iowa State team left and a ranked Baylor team left, TCU, we talked about, is as good as Kansas State defensively, so you're going to get your first taste of that over the weekend. And then you get Oklahoma State with a quarterback who's been nothing but a turnover machine here of late. So I don't really see it, man. I mean, maybe Texas goes with the one loss through the rest of their Big 12 schedule, and they end up as the repeat opponent to Oklahoma in the Big 12 championship. But this should be a march of 12 straight for Oklahoma into that championship game. They should win it, and they should get a 3 or even 2 seeding in the college football playoff, because the way that they're playing, the way that they have so many ways to beat you, the way that they have been just remarkable at being not selfish, turnover. I think this is all really big and really helpful for them. I think that each one of these games is something for them to build on, and that's what they've been doing. I understand a lot of people want to see Trey Sermon get touches, to which I'm going, I'd rather see him healthy, and he is. You know, you haven't really had any bad injuries, you know, like, say, Tua Tagovailoa, as I mentioned earlier, with the ankle deal. Jalen Hurts has been remarkably sturdy. He is your best tailback and your best quarterback. I don't particularly like it, but that's the way that the offense is designed this year. CeeDee Lamb has been there for 31 catches for like 618 yards, 681, I think. But, I mean, he's there. Lee Morris is there when you need him. So is Charleston Rambo. The wide receivers who are true freshmen are stepping up. Any one of those tailbacks can help you, and we really haven't seen TJ Pledger get a whole lot of snaps in meaningful situations. Defense is the only question mark, and they get better each and every week. Talk about a defense that held a Tech offense to 16 points. Same Tech offense put up 45 on Oklahoma State. At some point, this team needs to get its proper respect for the defense that is playing. And that'll come as other teams continue to lose, as the undefeated teams continue to dwindle. All Oklahoma can do is continue to beat its Power 5 schedule, march to the Big 12 championship, and see if they can win a college football playoff. All right, that's it for me. Deuces.